Hi everybody, it's Nicole here from MS Planet Computer Training, and I just wanted to go through with you a feature in Excel called Format as Table. Now I'm sure you all know how to format a table. You're probably thinking this is going to be a bit pointless watching this short video because you know how to make things bold. You already know how to apply shading to some cells or even a border. But this particular feature, Format as Table, which was introduced in version 2007, actually has a whole lot more to it. So that's what I want to go through with you. Now, the feature actually sits on the Home tab, and it's right here in the middle here called Format as Table, as I mentioned. You've probably seen it before. Some of you might have even used it. I'm not sure. But what I want to go through with you is obviously all the features that are attached with it. So you can see I've got just a really simple spreadsheet set up here. No formatting applied other than the date format that's there, and I have applied currency format to the price column, but that's about it. Nothing special. So because I don't have time to go and format it and it's quite a big table, I'm going to use this particular feature for Format as Table. So all you've got to do is just make sure you're somewhere inside your table. You don't need to highlight it, just be in it. On the Home tab, as I mentioned, go to the Format as Table button, and when you click on it, you'll see all of these pre-designed formats. And some of them are pretty nice, some of them are a little bit busy, so I'm going to pick one of the ones towards the top. Now, you may notice that some of the selections in here have what they call banded rows, which is where they alternate in shading. Again, that's a personal choice. I'm purposely going to pick one of those today because I just want to demonstrate some of the new features that come with that. So I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm just going to go for this one in the top left hand corner. So as soon as you click on the one that you like, Excel then just brings up a dialog box just confirming, is this what I'm actually going to be formatting as a table? And you can probably see in the background it's already pre-selected my table for me, which is great. And it's also saying my table has headers. So it's assuming the top row where I've got the headings first name, last name, etc. are obviously going to be headings, which they are. So that's perfect. I don't need to change a thing. So all I'm going to do from here is just simply click on OK. And a second later, if I just click to release the highlight, the first thing you'll probably notice is that yes, it very quickly went and formatted my table with that particular format, which is great. That's what I wanted. You may have also noticed at the top with the headings that it's also automatically turned on filtering. So for those of you who've used filtering before, obviously that can be a nice bonus that comes with it. The other thing also, if you have a look up the top on the ribbon, I've actually now got a new tab here called Design, just sitting below Table Tools. Now that's obviously because I've just applied this feature, and so I've got a lot of extra features available to me on this particular tab. For example, if I don't like the original colour scheme that I selected, e.g. the grey, I can actually move up here and I can go and apply or play around with any of the other ones that are there. All right, so you can always change your mind from the one that you selected. If I don't like the banded rows, which is that alternate shading, which I mentioned before, you can just untick that and it takes it away, and obviously tick it to turn it back on again. So you can go and apply extra design options at the top here. So I just want to go through a few things, obviously other than the formatting. Although the formatting is brilliant, there's a lot more to this particular feature that I really want to highlight. For example, if I start to scroll down, now this is a pretty big table. So if I just scroll down because I want to go and see some rows further down, have a look what's happened to the headings. You may notice they've actually been built up into the frame now. So rather than me seeing A, B, C, D, etc., the actual headings have been incorporated into the frame, which is a little bit like frozen panes for those of you who've used that feature before. So that can be really cool. That's a really nice addition that gets added here. Another thing that happens also by formatting this as a table is when you're doing data entry. Sometimes the annoying thing in Excel, if I was creating a new record for this table and you tab along and you get to the very last column, in the past, if you kept hitting tab, it would just keep going over to column N, O, P, etc. But have a look what happens when I hit tab now. It just actually wraps back around within the confines of my table structure, which is great for those people who are doing data entry. Just makes their life a lot easier. Now, other things also, if I decide that I want to go and insert a new row because I've got a new record that I want to enter in, about halfway down, Again, for those of you who've inserted rows before, you may be aware that if you've got a table, a separate table sitting over on the right hand side, when you go and insert a row, it affects the table on the right because it obviously puts a blank row through that table as well. Same as if I had a table underneath this particular one and I go and insert a column, that's going to muck up the table below. So then you have to do a bit of cut and pasting. Here, if I just right click wherever I want the row to go, I should say, and go for insert, you can see it's talking about table columns or a table row, not normally a sheet column or a sheet row. So if I go and insert a table row, just in this example, it automatically puts the row in, but it only affects this table. So had I have had another table to the right hand side, that wouldn't have been affected. And the other thing you may have noticed is it's automatically continued my banded formatting, which is why I opted to use that before. So that's a really good thing as well. Otherwise you wouldn't go for banded formatting because you'd have to go and manually adjust all of the subsequent rows. If I come up to the far right hand side of my table, so I'm actually outside of the table now, and I want to go and add in an extra column, let's say I want to work out the total due from all these people who are going on a holiday. So I'm just typing in the heading. As soon as I hit enter, Excel looks at it and goes, well, it's adjacent to the table that's already there. I'm assuming that you want it to be a part of that table, so you can see it's automatically extended the table structure to include that new column, which is also ideal. If I now go and build a formula to work out the total due, which would be looking at the price that they're paying, less any deposit that they've already paid. So like always, I'm going to start the formula with equals. I'm going to click on the cell that contains the price for the first traveller. And instead of actually putting in the cell reference of L2, if you have a look at what Excel's done, it's actually put in the name of that column. And again, it's automatically done that. So for those of you who've ever used range names, it's a very similar thing, but it's doing it for me automatically. So I've just put in the minus sign. I'm now going to click on the deposit amount cell, which is M2. But again, instead of putting in M2, it just puts in the name of that particular cell. Now, as soon as I hit enter, have a look what happens in column N for total due. You can see Excel smart enough to realize that by me putting the formula in that first cell, that's automatically got to be filled down the entire column. So I don't even have to worry about doing a fill myself. It's just automatically done that for me, which is brilliant. Just another really good time saver. Another thing which some of you might have played around with before with your tables is putting in totals at the bottom. But what you might have experienced before is that if you put in, say for example, at the bottom of the price column, you wanted to work out what's the total price that you've received, you would use AutoSum most likely. And if you then applied filtering, unfortunately Excel doesn't adjust that amount according to what's been filtered. Now, there's other ways of getting around that, but just to show you how it works with a table design. So I'm going to come back up to the design tab at the top here for my table tools, and I'm going to actually tell it that I do want to turn on this total row. At the moment it's not there, so I'm just going to put a tick box. Now that takes me straight to the bottom of my table, which is brilliant because it's down in row 8,000 odd, so it saves me having to get there. And you can see it's automatically created this new row at the bottom with the heading total. Now, wait, there's more. So if I just come, let's say for example, the price, which is what I was just talking about before, notice when I click in the cell where I want the price to go, there's a drop down arrow. And if I click on that, it comes up with just a short selection of the most common functions that suit this particular data. So if I want to put in the total price, I'm going to go for sum, and I've just got to widen the column there, obviously. And you can see it's automatically put the total in. Alright, and if you have a look at it up on the formula bar, it's using the subtotal function, which some of you might have used before. And the benefit of that is that if I then go and filter, the total at the bottom will only be the total for what is currently visible, so not for everything in the table. So you've got lots of options. If I click here underneath the number of travellers and I want to know, well, what's the total number of travellers there? Again, if I click on the down arrow and select count, it just tells me how many people obviously are travelling in total. So there's all sorts of different ones there, average, min, max, etc. But that's also a really good feature of using the table structure. So the only other thing to mention with tables is that you also have the ability to name them. And again, if you're familiar with range names in Excel, this will make sense to you. Now, by default, Excel's calling this one Table 9. That's because I've been playing around with a few tables prior to recording this video. Normally it will say Table 1. But again, I can click there and I can call it Traveller Table, something along those lines, and hit enter. Now that will help me if I then go and build a pivot table. One of the benefits of formatting your list before you go and build a pivot table is that if your pivot table structure changes, it will automatically update now because we've named this range. Whereas in the past, for those of you who've done pivot tables, you would be aware you have to then go and edit the data source to include any new columns or rows that you've added to your original table. So that's basically tables in a bit of a nutshell. Quite a long video compared to what I normally record, so hopefully you stuck with me. But it's got some really great features. If you want to learn more about it, obviously contact me at MS Planet Computer Training and we can go through and cover a whole range more because there's lots more to them, but that just gives you a nice snapshot. So thanks very much for your time. Nicole at MS Planet. Thanks again.